got the wood done. Yeah, and I'll show you on the uptight here in a little bit about what we did with the wood. But now we're going to get into the real work on this base, which is figuring out how to make this thing, I wouldn't say gas tight, I would call it gas resistant. Let's get on down the rabbit hole. Here we go. The stock repair is done. You can see it. You know I did it, but it still looks better than what it was before. You can see the plugs. I tried to run the grain on these plugs. It didn't take it. I got the grain going 4 and aft on this plug. I got it going 4 and aft on that plug. You can see right here, I have come back and acroglassed. Let me get this here up in the light. There it is right there. The shiny stuff is the acroglass right here. And I made a 100% impression of the back of the trigger plate. The top of the screw here, let me get this up in place, right there. So that little shiny spot right there, that's the top of the screw that came up from the bottom. You can still see a small amount of acroglass left here in the mortise. I'm making sure you guys can see that there. There we go. There's a little bit of glass here left that I got to go ahead and cut out. But basically, the wood of this is done. And this stock now bounces. And it has a note to it when you rep on it. It actually has a note to it. It's solid. It's going to haul recoil. We're there. Okay, so enough of the wood. Same shot. Let's pull in now. The real issue with this Kammerlader that drove this entire repair is this gizmo right here. This is the breech block. We can see here in the breech block, there's a threaded hole here where the percussion nipple went in. And this thing is rotted and it's too short and the gun basically went out of service. But all percussion nipples are consumable parts, all of them. We can see the threads up inside here. And I'm going to try to stick a bore camera in this later. I don't know how well that's going to work. These are the threads in the breech block, and what I'm looking here is to make sure that the threads where the percussion nipple went in are okay. If we insert up inside the breech block, we see that there's nothing really heinous going on in here. Let me get you a nice steady shot right there. It's a little bit crumbly, but it's not going to matter because I think we're going to go ahead and lathe turn all that. And then if I can get a non-shiny look at this, let's get up real close. You see how graveled up this surface is? We'll get a better shot on the close-up camera for you here in a little bit. I'm just trying to use this. All of this graveling here, this is the pressure containment lip. Right here, this is the pressure containment lip. And all of this nastiness right here, come back a little bit more till it comes in focus. There you go. All of this nastiness right here means that this gun leaks like a wet sweat sock when you try to shoot it. Here's the real problem with this thing. Right here around this outer edge is eaten away. That's eaten. There's all kinds of mung. I'm trying to have that shiny spot really highlight right there and right there. And it's not flat. You can see all the way across it. You can see the ridges. This breech block's function in life, this thing rotates to the vertical position and you stick a percussion cap on it right there. There's a percussion cap. Let me thread this thing in. Hang on. Let me just put it right. What do we got here? I'm trying to thread this thing in this hole, and the threads are old, but they're still crisp. So that percussion nipple's sitting there like that, and you tip it up, cock it, cap it, pour 100 and something grains of gunpowder in this, stick a honking 600 and something grain slug down on top of that, and I'll show you that a little bit later. And then pivot this down and it locks forward. So what that looks like inside the action here, and we're going to rotate it the other way. Some of you folks are asking me what this is. This appears to be a 49/55 Army model. This is the most frequently occurring Kammerlader. They made a whopping 10,000 of them, which is not a whole lot of weapons that have been made back in 1849. This one's got an 1857 stamp on it, which lends me to believe that this is a 49/55. It's the most common one out there. The ship has kind of sailed on this thing. I'm telling you, the finish has been messed with twice. None of the finish on the stock is original. It's there. Right now, though, we've conserved, and we're going to show that. And we're going to get it operational. And then from there, the owner's going to make the decision whether or not we want to go past that and bring it back to its former glory instead of sitting here and admiring how beat up it is. Okay, so the breech block sits in there like that. And when you drop the breech block down, it pushes forward up into this recess. Bang. And that's the breech sealed up. This thing leaks like a sieve full of spaghetti noodles when you pull the trigger right now. It blows gas all over here. It was gas cutting a line into the stock down below this plane where it was jetting out the bottom. It's blasting back along it. It would have been a fascinating high-speed photograph if I'd have had it of where all the gas was coming. But at least, unlike a Hall, this thing actually has some attempt at sealing its breech up. So the plan, and we're going to go to the whiteboard here next, the plan is going to be to cut this out in a lathe and put a sleeve up inside here and make this all gas tight again. And then we're going to have to come back and make a couple of nipples for it because this is some goofy size and they're not available. They're one of a kind. And we're just going to have to fabricate one. It's going to be easier to fab one than it is to save this. All right, let's get up to the whiteboard. I'm going to show you the fact that I've drawn it, but I'm going to put it up on a whiteboard to show you how the drawings develop. So now we're going to do a quick refocus back down onto my hand so you can see it because that thing can't grab onto, there it is. All right. The big thing we're going to have to do, this is that breech block, and there's some complex machining back here that runs on a cam. And then the breech block basically does this. There is a powder chamber that comes in and goes around like that. This looks to me like a casting that was done. Okay, and then here's the outer rim. And they've arbitrarily threaded a hole. They poked a hole through here and threaded it. And the nipple sits down here like this. Okay. That's what this block looks like. So we know that this area up here has been compromised. All this has been compromised. This is 8 out. It's not even the right diameter. This diameter has come in, that diameter has come in. My initial reaction was to attempt to make the entire breech block out of a solid block of steel. And it's a complex machining setup with dimensions that I don't have. On the only part that I have to measure is 160 years old. It wasn't going to happen. There's like, how come you don't make a Pedersen device? Well, I'm going to tell you, yeah, it could be made. The problem is you don't have any of the tooling. You don't have the factory that they did it in. You don't have any of that. And it is financially prohibitive to ask a guy to take a year of his life to make one thing. So it's not going to happen. So with tens of millions of dollars of production capacity in the middle of World War II, a Garand costed today's equivalent of $2,200, and that was when it was being completely mass produced. You can't just go make one Garand today. You can't do it. You can, but it's going to be a $6,000 to $8,000 deal, and it's prohibitive. It's not going to happen. We've got to take care of the gear we've got. Back to this thing. My answer to all this is going to be, by the way, they didn't think you could take this nipple out. You can always take a percussion nipple out. Let's just say that I used significantly more torque than anyone before me was willing to use, and I happen to use a lot of heat. Okay, so, sorry about that. I got a scratch on my throat. So what we'll do here, we're going to chuck this thing in a 4-jaw, hang on to it, and then come in with a boring bar. And bore this out. So we will remove material here, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. I just want to show you what we're doing. So everything that's dotted up here in green and down, we're going to remove this and cut a square chamber back here, bang. Then we'll fabricate a sleeve that's slightly smaller than this hole that we've bored and slightly longer. So when we get all the way done, we can take this sleeve, slide it up inside here, and compress it up against, as we're sliding it forward, compress it up against the back of that ring, and then we can continue to face a thou or two at a time off the back end of it until it's all tight and it goes home. Yeah, I'm going to cut and try it because there is no way to actually measure how this works. One final thing we're going to do, you'll see this spinning in the lathe, and we'll have the back end of the barrel right here, is I'm going to put some valve grinding compound on this thing, and I'm going to grind this till it's flat and make sure that we get a gas resistant seal in there. It's still going to leak because there's nothing here to obtruate. There's no obtruator ring like you had on the Chassepose. There's no cartridge casing. There's nothing. It's going to leak. Mechanically sealed black powder weapons leak. The sharps leak. The hulls. Oh my God, I'm surprised there's any pressure left to push the ball down the bore. All right, so that's what we're going to do, and you'll see what I'm doing and how we're going to hang on to it. You know, why did he make it that long? Well, you got to hang on to it because I don't want to take the shoe off the barrel. I don't want to take the shoe off the back end. I don't want to break that joint right there. I could, but I don't have to. So I'm not going to go ahead and do that. All right, so to the drawing, right quick like. So now you know what we're going to do. So we're going to rotate that drawing and we're going to look at it end on. And there's 3 concentric circles here we have to worry about. 2, 3. Okay? And that, when you look at it on the breech plug, there we go. We got the outside, which is out here, the inside and the inside. Now they're drawn a little bit out of scale because I want to make a point. And then the top piece is on this like this and comes across like that and comes over like this. All right. So here's some things that mitigated against just taking a round piece and taking a piece of pipe and cooking it in here is this extends above that. So I can't do that. That would have been a piece of pipe with 2 wings on it. I'm not going there. So we did all that in an attempt to not have to adulterate the original breech block. The 24-hour Kammerlader parts store is closed, and when they're open, they're slap out of these things, so we're not going to do it. So this part here that sticks up is this piece right here. We're going to cut that off and bore to that line right there. We're going to open the ID of this thing there to there is going to be 0.975. I'm going to make a promise to all you guys over in Europe. When this video is all over, I'm going to do an addendum where I'm going to put a picture up and I'll take all these numbers and I'll turn them into metric for you. I'll turn them into millimeters for you. I got to work in thousands because the gun, I've just got to work in thousands. So I'm going to accommodate the metric guys, and I understand why they need to be accommodated, and that's not a joke or a put down or anything. This distance here to here is 975. All right. That's going to come out to about 24 millimeters. We'll get there. This chamber dimension on the inside is about 730, somewhere in there. So the difference between the two works out to, what did it work out to? 245. 245 is what it works out to, which means this thickness right here, 1,225. Humor me on the math. Now you go, well, that doesn't add up. Right, because I want to leave a 5,000ths annulus in here to accommodate how we're going to fasten this tube we're going to make up inside this thing. All right, so let's go do a little bit of boring here. We'll bore the inside of this out. We'll make a sleeve. When we're all done with that, we got to come back and make a couple of nipples for this thing, because not only do we have to make the one for the gun, we got to make the spare for the next guy 50 years from now when I'm dead and nobody else knows how to do what I know how to do. This is how I see it. That's how you all see it. All right, I'm going to try to get some light down in there and illustrate to you how off-center the chamber was. It was a sand casting, and I'm going to move some light here. There we go, and see if I can. And that was off-center, and you could hear it when it was cutting, zit, 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 while it was going in, and it was wreaking bloody hell with it. The other thing I made sure of was that, you see the striations here on the wall? You could cut that smoother. You could lay the blade down and do a much smoother cut. But I intend to acroglass this in, and there's 6 square inches of acroglass in this thing, and it's captured at either end, so it won't do squat. So into that is going to plug that. Now, this is what we just got done turning on the lathe, and that's plugged in the back here and has been seated in the back of this chamber. So that thing is so tight, I can't even get it out by hand. Hang on a minute. We're going to just kind of take it out. Wow, that sucker's in there tight. Well, as I walk across the shop, I'm going to continue to talk to you because I've got to get a ramrod and poke this pig out of here because I want to show you something. I want to do it in the same cut. Big barrel, big powder chamber. Hang on. Got it. All right, there we are. Okay, sorry about that. So we cut this to be the diameter of the bullet, or the projectile, to use the right name. Let me drop that down there on the floor. So this, we're just going to cut this and make it a straight through tube. Now you go, well, how can we cut it too big? See, the projectile just falls down in it. The cartridges for this thing are in paper. So this projectile, this thing weighs a ton. Look at that sucker right there. Yikes. Look the size of that thing. Woohoo, baby. Anyway, let's, we're going to go cut the rear end off this powder chamber and see if we can get it all lined up inside the gun. We're up in the vise here, and I can't believe that breech block goes around like that. I cannot believe we got that sucker centered. Okay, so there's an eccentric back here, and you can see as we pull the eccentric back and forth that the breech block disengages. And then it'll get to a point and it'll just kick up. So this part is just a little bit too long because it's actually up in the barrel. So what we'll do is continue to face the back end off of the plug until this handle drops, and it's not going to take much more. Now I have to take it apart here. So there we go. There's this, okay. So there we go. And I put a slight bump on the end of that in order to make it fit down in the chamber, and that's going to sit there. And honest to God, we're just going to acroglass it in, and it's trapped up against. All it's got to do is hold it in place. And I got a funny feeling that Eric isn't going to do a burn down on this thing anytime soon. All right, I'm going to go kiss this in the lathe. We're going to acroglass this together and then get this weapon on. Bruno's actually going to do me a favor and start throwing it together for me while I talk about how we're going to make the nipples for this thing, because that nipple's a good 1/4 of an inch too short. Be right back. All right, I took one more shave off of this, drop it down into position, and then it cams forward. Now, when all the blocks are on it, it's held, it's constrained. I don't have to do it. And then that comes forward like that. Bang, and we're in. And that's tight and it's flush. And don't ask me how the hell that happened, but I guess, again, I only got to be watered once a week. We got to make a nipple for this thing. And it's got a set of threads on it. We got to cut that. These are some pretty goofy threads. It comes up the major diameter like this. It's got a step in it like that. And then we're going to cut a set of wrench flats on it. And then in the bottom, we will drill a hole down on the bottom of this thing. There's the flash hole. And the flash hole goes up about, I don't know, twice its radius. It doesn't really matter. Then this will be a drill bit drilled down in here, and it'll come all the way up the top like this. And then there'll be metal coming up here like that to meet it. Kind of a stylized drawing. Now this particular nipple is kind of like a steeple almost. It's got, it's really, really tall. It's goofy. It's got funky threads. I'm reading off of my drawing here. The threads are 0.330 by 20. Those are the threads. So we'll turn a stick of metal that's around 1 inch long, and then we'll leave it sticking out down here like this. We'll bore this hole, and then what this stick of metal is going to let us do is grab it so that we can turn this taper up here on the part where the percussion cap sits. The cap sits up there. We can turn that, and then we can stick a drill bit down a long axis of this, get all this drill work right, park this sucker off, grab it right here, clean it up, bam, we're done. It was either that, or else we were going to have to take the old nipple, which was laying right here. Problem with this thing is the top is rotted off of this, and it should be a good 1/4 of an inch longer. Now that we have it out, if we were forced to use this nipple, we'll just put a washer underneath it and stand it up a little bit, and it'll run. Or we can go to the lathe. busy day in the shop. I'm going to tell you, it's late. We've been turning and burning on this thing for a week. I'm leaving at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning to give it back to its owner. And that's not a whole long time from now, but worth it. Successfully sleeved the entire powder chamber. Made a musket cap size nipple because this thing's going to get hunted with. Did extensive stock repair work to something that you don't see too often. It has been a pleasure to work on a really, really, really unique gun and show you guys some of what went on. You didn't catch all of it because we were flying, and as always, see you on the backside. Well, sooner or later, you got to get paid. You got to shoot it. We fired it a couple of times here. So now the customer is loading the weapon with 140 grains of black gunpowder. That's how much the powder chamber takes. So we're carefully loading that in, make sure all that powder drops. Black gunpowder, by the way. Wow-wee.
Somebody's having fun.
Yowza. Okay, well, that aside, it's easy to get distracted during the reloading process, and this is where we want to go. So since this powder measure only goes to 120 grains, we had to drop two, a 120 and a 20.
And we now have 140 grains.
We got 140 in it. So now we're just shocking the powder chamber to make sure it drops. We're putting a lubricated wad to act as a set of piston rings. And then a really, really, really incredibly big ball. These things weigh 660, you said?
660.
660. So we're putting 140 grains behind a 660 grain projectile.
We're making ourselves a little paper gas check.
Yep. And we just tap it in there with a wooden stick. We're also going to use that stick as a safety to allow us to cap it, because there's a piece of leather supposed to be hanging here that goes with the gun. We're not back yet. As the God's honest truth, I was still working on this thing at 11 o'clock last night, so details didn't get done. So right now the hammer's sitting on the wooden stick so we can lubricate. The important thing to remember here is right now, this is technically a loaded firearm, but the breech block isn't closed and locked. You want to bet? That's a 69 caliber Derringer right there, so you got to treat it that way. The lubricant we're putting on this, it's a water-based lubricant. All we're using that to do is to keep the fouling inside the tube soft and to try to keep the lead in the projectile and not in all the nastiness in the bore. As you remember here at the earlier part of this, we stuck a live bore scope down this thing and looked at the rifling, and there's a little bit of hate in there. All right, so now we've got a lot of gunpowder. We've got a lot of projectile. We have a lubricant. So now we're going to cap this with a musket cap, fairly large. It has wings. We set it up for a musket cap because it's going to be shot. He's going back deer with this thing this year.
I'm going to try.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Whether or not we get any of it to eat or not doesn't really matter.
Oh, you'll be able to eat all the way up to the bullet wound.
All the way up to the bullet wound. Okay, so he's going to close the breech now. And when he closes the breech drops down and then cams forward as we showed you before. Go ahead and lock it up. We're good. That locks it shut. And now we've got a capped live muzzleloader here. And he was going to extract the stick and set it up. Got to go to full cock
Yep, we'll
first.
go to full cock to do that.
So when he's ready to go, we'll do that. We've got a radar. I'm going to show you something here while he's doing his thing. Chad walks in the back to position the range radar setup. This thing is impressive, the amount of muzzle energy that this pig kicks up. I'm going to tell you what.
And I'm the idiot that's going to shoot it from the bench.
Right.
140 grains.
Well, where were we generating? What was the last number we generated for muzzle energy?
2,036.
2,036 pounds-feet of muzzle energy. All right, brother. Let her rip whenever.
All right, now this is a under lever, so we're going to cock it.
Cock it.
And this would normally be a little piece of leather they call cleaking leather. Mm-hmm. And of course there's a funky Scandinavian name for it, but of course I don't know it.
All right. Okay, this is going to be a little bit loud. It's going to overdrive the mic, guys. Just deal with it.
It's going to overdrive my shoulders.
Are we have the muzzle close enough to the radar? I just thought I'd bring it up.
Hang on a second.
Stand by. We didn't get a measurement the last time because we were either not close enough or we scared the radar gun to death.
Let's try that.
The lab radar was like, what's going on? What's happening?
All right, give that a whirl.
Okay, I think it's going to give me a whirl. Yeah, buddy. Woo! That had some recoil.
And that, friends, is how that's done. Hoorah!
Beautiful. Mark Novak, everyone.
Mark Novak, the man himself. Kammerlader master extraordinaire.
A legend in his own mind.
He's lining up for the shot. He's removing the plug.
I can feel his animal magnetism from here.
All right, he's lining up the shot. He's lining up the shot. Is he going to take it?
Man, that shot was in the black, wasn't it?
Yep. Is he going to take it? Is he going to take it? Let's see.
Can't see because of the giant cloud of smoke in the way.
Dude, I could see that round tracking just fine. What are you talking about?
Not I.
Has it got there yet?
It hit the berm.
We can edit in a dings. That'll make you ding. You got it.
Like, wait a minute, that's the same impact point that I saw on the other shot. It's like you just keep using the same impact every time. Oh, we repainted the steel every time, and this thing is just that accurate.
Such a cool gun.
This is cool. That thing belts the shit out of you.
Isn't it glorious?
That's
Oh,
a lot of
wow.
powder.
And that, boys and girls, is how I put the ass in classic.